that's not, from what I see, it's not really a field for the males, especially the African, the indigenous African descendant males, because I guess there's been certain stereotypes put in, but the children absolutely love, from what I see, the male teacher. The children won't let the males leave the schools, leave the classrooms, and it's because they miss that bond or they can relate to that. And that goes into me talking about the Indigo, the Crystal, and the Starseed children, the whole new wave of children that there is right now. I kind of wanted to ask you about that, too, because I know you did a blog, I think it was back in October. It was about speaking to your guardian angels. And a lot of people have never heard about speaking to guardian angels. They never heard of Indigo, Crystal, or Starseed children. They never heard of Ascension. There's a whole new paradigm shift that has happened, and it's happening right now under our nose. It's hard to really say it in my own words because you have definitions in your own eyes, but can you just touch on that a little bit as well? I know I kind of threw 3 different topics out there, but if you can sum it up kind of as one, because the only reason I'm asking that is because there's so many people who are awakening right now. And we titled the show Introduction to Consciousness. Some people have never heard of Crystal, Starseed, Indigo children. They never heard of guardian angels or even our ancestors. Some people aren't familiar with spirituality, ancestors. They don't know how to separate the difference in that in religion, which is Latin for religion, which means to regulate and bind by. But there's a lot of things that comes with consciousness, but the main thing is seeking accurate knowledge. I'll leave it right there. Get off there.
Okay, sure. Thank you, sister. Well, the thing is, when we're speaking about those different classifications of children, it's important to understand that those classifications or those names, those characteristics actually came out in the 60s. That's when we first got word of the Indigo, the Crystal, and the Starseed children. And it was mainly because at that time you had all of these yogis who were over here, and they were teaching Eastern thought and Eastern calculation and philosophy. And it was said that, now again, if we even look at some of the images of the archetypes, like Krishna, you see them in the indigo. They're painted, that bluish color. And this was said to be the color or the image that we see around the auric or the energy body of a person.
Christians that are trying to serve you actually are in a fight with you about their doctrine.
Well, again, wonderful question. I think the first thing that we need to be able to do with ourselves and also with our children is begin to categorize some folk. And I know we don't like to do that much because we like to approach people with open minds, but we have to understand that times have changed. And what I mean by that is this. There was a time when I was a child, for instance, that if I was ever lost or in trouble, that I should try to find a policeman, and that policeman would help me find my way back home. Okay, this is the instruction that all, and I know you remember, we were all told that, these are people who we could go to for help. Now, of course, we understand that times have changed, and that would be one of the worst things that a young child may do in this day and time. Not only for themselves, but also they'll end up in foster care, and their parent can end up in jail, just because the child wandered off. So I think it's important now more than ever for us as parents to kind of sit back and start to see who's who. Let's really understand the difference between the melanated individual and the Negro or the N-word. Let's understand the difference between the institution from the educator. And once we begin to do that, we can start really understanding what we should have our children around and who we can mark to our children as being safe and who we can mark as being unsafe. That's the number one thing, because I feel like, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, your nature is never stronger than your environment. And one of the problems that we have in this time is that we're not situationally aware, and that we're aware of what our environment is actually saying and doing. So it's overpowering our nature because we're not aware of the constant onslaught. We're not looking at the cartoons. We're not looking at, even though I love my auntie or I love my uncle, if they're a Negro, then I have to see them as an enemy to my child's healing and to my child's ascension. We don't look at things like that, you know, or even grandma or grandpa. And we have to start setting those lines of demarcation of character and categorizing people as to who's who. I would say those who are listening and looking for a first step, that would be the first thing. And then once you do that, you know, I would also just say find a set of principles, an unwavering set of principles. I would offer the 7 principles of Ma'at and the 7 principles of the Nguzo Saba. And I always refer to them as the 14 African principles. They were perfect.
I feel personally
standard of reference that a family can use.
This, you know, this is a question. It's a varied question, or a varied answer, I should say, because it really depends on your status, station, and position within your pseudo community. At different ages, we're going to have different initiatives. I'm at a place in my life at this time where my largest advice to people is to not cast their pearls before swine. Okay, so my greatest advice is, as opposed to trying to go into these public schools and rehabilitate them and re-engineer them, or these corporate environments and things like that, take that same effort and energy and build outside of that space. So I think, you know, I'm coming from with that. But I think right now the main focus, especially for those who are listening and wondering, okay, well, you know, based on that question, where do I begin? Start your focus on food, clothing, and shelter. Just start right there. Real simple. Food, clothing, shelter. Feeding myself, clothing myself, providing some form of shelter for myself. You're going to find that when you start dealing with that topic and that idea, you can't get away from land acquisition. Okay? And I think that's the best place to start, even if you don't have much money and you start doing some researches on tax sales or buying junk land that doesn't even have any electricity or water going into it. But what you have to start looking at, even if you could just set up a tent, you know, and sit there and eat some raw tomatoes, you know, or a sleeping bag, but to be able to have a sacred space where you can escape from the design of a sick society for a little while. You know,
yes, sir.
I think that would be the greatest weapon and the greatest tool that we currently have at this time, as opposed to continually, because we're being laughed at. You know, you're taking little pebbles and you're throwing them at a tank, and you're wondering why the machine isn't stopping. And that tank is racism, white supremacy. So the way you break that down, the way you shut it down, it's just like a carnival or a fair that comes to your town. If you want the carnival to shut down, don't buy a ticket and go on a ride. Don't buy a ticket and then go there and complain to the manager about the carnival. He done already got your money. You bought your ticket. I'm not even going to get on the Ferris wheel. That's how it's going to get shut down.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
So don't even get in. Don't even engage it, and start just focusing on food, clothing, and shelter. And even with those coming online, and the clouds that were confusing you was your human thought, the left and right brain hemispheres, and that's what this society, with Fox News, with MSNBC, that's what they're manipulating. They're manipulating your human thought. But if there's something that goes beyond and exists above human thought, and that's your consciousness. That's your recognition of you as your own self-savior. Okay, so when the Savior returns, the Messiah returns, that's because your first eye came online. So one of the first things that we need to understand, going back again to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, do for self. Now, the best self-preservation there is group preservation. Start gathering yourself with people who are also online, who are thinking, and it doesn't, all you need is 2. So that's 3 people. That's you and 2 others. With 3 people, you can start an entirely new clan, a new nation. It doesn't take 500 people or 1,000 or 3. 3 is my magic number when it comes to this. You know, so we have to acknowledge when the new world order begins. And then once you realize that, a government shutdown does not matter. You're not dependent on, does my EBT card work? Will I get Social Security benefits? So forth and so on. Because number one, your first eye and your consciousness allows yourself to see these things coming and helps you to navigate the course of human life, of human existence. Okay? So for us as melanated individuals, our immediate default should always be our consciousness, our spirituality. We can't go from the reverse. We can't use the human and social events to now determine how we should govern ourselves spiritually. Our spiritual awareness and strength is what determines human and social events, not the other way around. So that would be my take on that.
Absolutely, bro. Listen, I'm just sitting here just smiling from ear to ear because to have my own brother, be able to convey the information for the exact time. But it's like you're saying, me being on the same plane of existence as you, as well as having a like mind, certainly is the power in the information that we're exchanging as well. The things in terms on us even looking at our consumer-based participation. For instance, we're spending almost $2.8 trillion a year, which is almost $3 trillion a year, $7 billion in hair that we're putting into this gross national product. What is it that we've kind of gotten away from, or how will we
the dialogue like
manipulated mentally and education?
You came in and reminded us that this is wonderful, brothers, and on top of that, we have something that we're bringing forth as far as product or as far as an opportunity for the community to join in the form of this summit that everybody can partake in. See, that was the perfect balancing right there between man and woman. That was perfect what you just did. And that's exactly what I was going to speak on. We need each other first. When you speak about these other communities, they have a reasoning and purpose for commerce. They have a reasoning. When we deal with economics, eco meaning life, and nomics or namo meaning the homestead. Economics means the life of the homestead or sustaining the homestead, and it deals with the relationships that we developed and we cultivate for the purposes of maintaining and sustaining the homestead. If you don't have a homestead and you're out here like a maverick, then you really don't have much reason to develop economy. So the interaction between you two is a perfect example. When we say what we should do, we should look at interaction between people like you two as a model. This is how you build a show. This is how you build a concept. This is how you build an experience, by employing the balance of man and woman in a family model. Because without family, and I'll tell you as men, we don't really have much purpose and reasoning for living until we develop a family. We think we do. We'll say our car. We always want something to worship, whether it's our car, our penis, our money. We're going to find something to worship. But we need something that gives us purpose, to drive us. So one of the first things our community needs to do in order to develop a better sense of business, like the brother said, going back to Black Wall Street and establishing our own financial institutions, our own educational institutions, our own healing facilities, is the first thing that has to happen within the microcosm of a family unit. We need each other again. That's the answer. We need family again. And family will give us the purpose and reasoning for building these other things that we're speaking about. And that dynamic that you just presented was exactly what we're talking about, because the woman is going to make sure, above all, that whatever that man, that idea that you have, that summit, she's going to make sure that it comes to fruition. And brothers, you need to understand that you can go on the street corners and ciphers and you can build all day, but without the presence of a womb, you're basically just spouting dead information. You need that womb to breathe that breath of production on it. You can't produce anything without a woman. And a woman is waiting for an idea to give us something to produce. So that balancing in family is what we need.
That was very powerful, my brother.
About it, but it's more or less about who you are and about looking within yourself and how do you love yourself, how do you respect yourself, and that will reflect. And that's going to reflect how you are as a wife, how you are as a mother, how you are within your household. But the main thing is family, just like Brother was telling us, Brother Hero. It's very important. It's not corporations that's ruling the world right now. It's definitely families. If you can get that family dynamic built and structured, then you're good. We have an 11-year-old that runs her own business, Neptune Shocks with a Z.com. She's 11 years old, but she's definitely, Starseed, Indigo Crystal, bloodline. So, honors to wisdom for the, the new generation of, children and families that are coming up that absolutely get it. But it's absolutely, Brother Hebrew, you're right. I'm glad that you even touched on the emergency aspects as well, because I'm came out of Los Angeles and I took a class in FEMA where they do the emergency exit planning. If there's a disaster or a war or something and the alarm goes off, the siren, and everyone has to jet out. Well, I took the class, but when I took the class, there was absolutely none of our people whatsoever in the specific area that I was in by the beach, right? But the main thing is that I took the class because I said if I have to make it out of L.A., I need a plan B. I took the class, and as I'm looking around, I see none of us in there to get prepped for emergencies whatsoever. So then I even use the map that they give you to follow this road in case something happens. You got to get out of town for the emergency. I followed it ahead of time. I just followed it one day. I didn't want to wait for the emergency. I went ahead and did it early. And the trail led right back in a circle again. So really, how many of you do have a family emergency plan right now? When you send your children off to school, which we don't, but if you do, what is your emergency backup plan? If your child is at school, you signed your child's rights away. So say a truck pulls up full of soldiers or something and they make your child get on the truck. I mean, do you have an emergency backup plan for your family? Food, water, the main thing is wisdom. Practice wisdom. I know that was a mouthful, but...
So what I wanted to also, why I have you, my dear brother, is that I deal with like the juvenile detention little guys as well, and you got guys in there as young as 11, 10 years old that are in the juvenile detention centers, and they are absolutely being traumatically, psychologically assassinated in that environment. And a lot of times I've been fortunate to get a few out and deal with some aspects of their family dynamics.
Choose up. So when you start showing them that, listen, what you're doing is not new, and it's actually in your blood to want to be a part of a family. That's in your blood. It's in your blood to want to be territorial. That's in your blood. But the way you're going about it is actually destroying you in the process. There's a smarter way to do this. There's other ways you can get money. You have young melanated entrepreneurs at 10, 11, 12 years old. They're worth millions of dollars because they have an idea. So I find, for me, and everybody's approach is a little different. I've been working with that population. That's actually where I started for over 20 years in juvenile detention centers. And one of the first things that was asked to me was, well, you ever been locked up? And I had to honestly say yes and share, well, this is what my coming up was. And, because I was authentic. And if I would have said, no, I've never been locked up and never been locked up, that would have been just as fine, too. But either way, I couldn't lie.
Right.
So I would say the first thing is to validate some of the things that they're currently doing and not just dismiss them as being debaucherous. Don't just dismiss them as being tools of white supremacy immediately, because they're not looking for that condemnation. They're looking for you to reclaim them. And like the sister was saying earlier, when we go into these schools, the reason that they're fascinated with men, they're not used to our tone. That's why a lot of times if you just say, stop, what are y'all doing? And you raise your voice, you'll have a quiet classroom for 20 minutes because they never even heard that tone. Like, what the heck was that? I've only heard my mother tell me to stop. I've never heard an adult man, melanated man, give me instruction.
Right.
And you can fascinate them for a couple of and that's why they get used to it. They're going to act up again, and then you got to pull something else out your hat. But it's just the intrigue they'll have at first. I mean, when I first started going to schools, the young people would ask me about shaving. So you shave? Things like that. They never saw a man shave before.
That's right.
How long is your hair? I had locks. Or how long is your hair? Things like that. And so I could have been in there teaching basket weaving. It didn't matter. As long as I showed up with my authentic self, that was powerful enough to start reclaiming and redeeming some of these young children. So I would say authenticity.
Absolutely, bro. That's exactly it. And to give them indication that as little brothers, as males, that they have powers and they have personalities and they have talents and abilities as well as goals and aspirations that they can look at as well and can achieve those things if they focus on those and understand that loving yourself and knowing who you are is the most powerful tool you can have. And generally, when you go in those environments, you have to check some of them adults because I've had some issues with sheriffs
to hold down and contain the energy of the space. That's why you have all this aggression inside of prisons. You have aggression inside of schools because of something real simple, a flat roof. Okay, so we're constantly being forced into places where linear thought, linear concepts, and linear constructs becomes the norm of the day, and that squashes that feminine or yin, as was spoken about earlier, abstract way of thinking. Okay, when you're teaching a child that they have to paint inside of the lines, or they have to color inside of the lines, they have to walk through this square door and sit in this hard chair and listen to something that's taught in a very linear fashion, and do not daydream. If they daydream, they get a bad grade, and it's written on their report card that they dream, that they have visions, that they have an imagination, which is the root and the core principle of alchemy. That's squashed. Okay, so these are the things, and amongst many other things, but these are the things that happen. Even I was going to mention TV. A lot of our spiritual acclimate abilities and skills were digitized. So our ability to astral project was turned into television. Our abilities of telepathy was turned into telephone. Okay? And all of our greatest experiences, the first time a child saw a whale or a fox or a wolf came through this square box, a television. So again, we have this square in front of us again. And these are the things that from a spiritual, energetic, and social perspective and aim and objective, these are the things that lock down the vision and the imaginations for melanated people.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
We have about left on the show. We have 2 hands up for questions. I wanted to see if you're ready to take some questions.
Man, well, we got our wonderful brother. Let him in.
Okay. Caller from 312-221. You're on live with Nubian News.
Got flat roof too instead of a point roof. That's why churches got steeples to direct a lot of that energy out. Oh, Ryan, when you get down to home, you got to clear that mess you made with that pencil sharpener. Like,
hello?
What do you think? Why do you have to make messes and just leave them?
Hello?
Serious. That's both.
We shall go to the next caller.
Thank you. I don't know what that was.
965, you're on live with Nubian News.
Are aware of the show.
Hi, how you
now
doing?
that you're aware of it, share the information as well as show signs of a platform that we have so that we can look at those dynamics we are discussing in technology, business, law, spiritual awareness, communications, economics, or anything else. And then the more people we drive to the platform, then that unification is powerful, right? And then the division no longer will be a process of our stolen legacy. So a young brother like yourself that comes out, we're totally aware of everything you just stated. We're absolutely dealing with the resolution of all those factors as well. So now that you are aware of the show, which is every Wednesday, because we've been on for about maybe 19 to 20 weeks now, and we got an extraordinary amount of listeners as well, and we certainly love to have brothers tonight that brings a whole different look or view in some of the solutions and some of the things that we can do to transform our lives as well as transition to a different place. So that's what the show actually is about today. And we would love for you to have a question with Brother about some of the things that can strengthen your viewpoints as well as your awareness of what we don't do, how we can resolve the things that we don't do, and how we can move from this platform so all of us can be aware of each other and know about each other.
Definitely. If I could, man, how can I find out more information? You got an email or?
I got an email. I got it, sir. got an email, little brother, for you. Okay, I'm your brother. I'll give you my phone number as well. I would love for us to collaborate any ciphers that can make adjustment as men, and our brotherhood and our unity is what's the extraordinary dynamic that's important. Extraordinarily important. You can have anything that you want or that you need to get in touch with me. I have no problem with that.
Could I have your email and your number, if that's cool?
My email, take it right now. You ready? SAADAT.
Wait, hold on. You was breaking up.
SAADAT. Forever, the whole word, together, brothers.com.
Okay, and you got another number like outside the show I can reach you at? Like
740-640-0099.
4099?
Yes.
Okay. All right, man. Yeah, I'll definitely get in touch with you, man, because I'm listening to the show, and I'm about taking action, man. You know, that's
absolutely.
You know.
That's what the show's for. That's what we want you to do. We want you to be proactive because we need you. The unity of our people is the most important thing we can do at this time, and all of us have extraordinary gifts that we can contribute so that we all can survive and sustain our lives. So you're absolutely right. I'm of action as well, so call me.
All right, no doubt, man. And like I said, we call ourselves HoodX, and it's hoodx.com if you want to check us out, you know, and sign up, and, you know, we can network through there. But I definitely going to give you a call, man, and send you an email.
No problem. Thank you, my brother.
All right. Peace, man.
Thank you, caller. For those of us who were wondering what he was talking about, or more information about what we were talking about, we have an event coming up. It's the Indigenous African Descendant Network Business Networking event, where we're unifying the entire Indigenous community as well as all of the Indigenous descendant businesses to start doing business with one another, because if every other nationality, culture, and race can do it, then so can we. We say we have no power, but we have a $3 trillion a year spending power, $7 billion in hair. Okay, hold on. If we go back to the book, I'm going to try to bring that caller back in, but it looks like he hung up. So that's it in questions. Anyone else has a question, please feel free to press 1 on your phone. And also more information about Team Cypher, you can go to the website autonomousenterprise.com. It's AUTONOMOUS Enterprise, ENTERPRISE.com, and go under the event Team Cypher. Team Cypher is going to be at the historic Bronzeville Information Center Saturday, November the 9th. So you guys definitely don't want to miss this event, because we can do this. We definitely, if you really, really, really think about it, no one's coming together marching anymore. It's like we don't have that unity like we used to have. But the main thing right now is that we preserve our bloodline. And if we come together in our businesses and pull our resources together, we'll realize that everyone else is leeching off of the Indigenous African Descendant community. Here in Chicago, 23% of the business contracts were given to Indigenous African Descendant businesses. That goes to show you who's running the majority of the contracts here to run Chicago. So the main thing is, if we all just learn to come together and we unify, then we'll realize that our unification is 1 trillion times more important than our differences. And those are my famous words of my mentor teacher. So, honey, do you have anything else to share with them?
Yeah, I just wanted to share with them our event is at the historic Visitors Information Center in Bronzeville, 3501 South King Drive, November the 9th, between 1 and 8 o'clock. We have a youth piece from 1 to 3 with entrepreneurs as young as 11 doing presentations. We have some workshops there as well with some exceptional holistic health doctors for our health challenges, as well as some wisdom in terms of all the dynamics that are affecting this time. So it's from 1 to 8, November 9th, Historic Bronzeville Information Center, 3501 South King Drive. The tickets are $26. VIP is $35. And we're going to have an exceptional cipher that day as well.